So there's this piece of land near where I live. I've actually taken you there in many videos before now. It's where I recorded the fasciated thistles and the crepuscular rays. It's next to the field where I picked the goosefoot for my fake waterleaf soup, and it's the place where I discovered the joy of cramming my face full of ripe blackberries. Part of this field has been lying fallow now for 2 years, another part of it for longer. Before that it was a farm, owned by the county council I believe, but it's gradually returning to nature. Which is good, so let's try to give it a helping hand. This year is a mast year for the oak tree in my garden again, meaning it's producing a literal ton of acorns. We can't leave them lying in the garden, and the squirrels can't possibly eat them all, so I gathered up a load of them and went off to this field to try planting them. I started off poking holes in the soil with my walking spoon and depositing the acorns in the holes. These should stand a good chance of surviving until spring and germinating. I also planted some horse chestnuts and even an apple core, which may grow into a feral apple tree if we're lucky. And of course luck is a factor here. It's possible that someone will start farming this land again soon, and all of these plants here will be ploughed under, including my little oak seedlings if they grow, but maybe they won't. Maybe we'll start a forest growing here and get it established before anyone realises it's no longer a field. But the other aspect of luck is that not all of these acorns will make it. Some will be eaten by insects or small mammals, and that's okay. Circle of life and all that. But to try to bump the odds a little, I scaled up my operation. Each day I've been filling this bowl with acorns, it's about 5 kilos of them, and taking it off to the field. I can't plant this many singly by hand, so I'm just scattering them instead. Not as good as planting, but they will stand a non-zero chance of germination here as they're falling down amongst annual grass and weeds, which will shade them from the sun during the rest of summer, and then will die down and cover them up for the winter. Maybe only 1 in 10 of these acorns will even germinate, maybe only 1 in each 10 of those will survive its first year. And maybe only 1 in 10 of those, so 1 out of every 1,000 acorns I plant or throw will actually turn into a tree. What to do in the face of such fearsome odds? Give up? No, that's just the sure recipe for failure. Scale up. If only 1 in 1,000 of these acorns might become a tree, I'll just have to plant a few 100,000 of them to get 100 trees. Cool with me, I'm on it. Also, I've collected and scattered seeds of other native and naturalised trees in a part of this field, including silver birch, maple and horse chestnut. If I get the chance, I'll add ash, beech, hazel and white beam too. I don't think I need to worry too much about hawthorn and blackthorn, as these are already abundant in the surrounding hedges and they'll make their own way into the space distributed by birds. Some of you might be worrying that I'm committing a crime here, but what would that crime be? Littering? With acorns? Maybe so, but I think this is one of these situations where it's better to ask for forgiveness than try to seek permission, so I feel okay about it. So here's hoping that some of these acorns might one day grow into mighty oaks. All things permitting, I'll take you back here next year and we'll check for early signs of success. You may recall a couple of weeks ago I cooked some giant puffballs at Julia and Steve's orchard, and Julia invited me to pick one of them to take home. So I had half of the original puffball plus another of the full-size puffballs. I left 2 of them there so that they could mature and spread their spores around. So what to do with this giant puffball? Well, I've heard that you can dry it, so I chopped it up into pieces and put it in my food dehydrator. In the morning, the dried mushroom was kind of bizarre. Actually, it's almost got no weight to it, and it's very brittle and crumbly. So I decided that actually what I'll do is I'll crush it up into some sort of dust that maybe I can use as seasoning. So I put it all in the food processor and ran that for a few seconds. And what I'm left with is, well, mushroom dust. Don't breathe this. But seriously, what I seem to have here is now mushroom flour. Now, I don't know what to do with this. I'm going to store it for a while I think about that. But in theory, we could have mushroom pancakes. We could use this to maybe make mushroom sausages or something. I don't know. I'm going to think about it for a bit and store this, and maybe we'll have some recipes made out of mushroom flour in the near future. Today I learned an important lesson about health and safety. You see, I was carving a spoon. They are very beautiful. I'm afraid to say there's no video about making this spoon. I was just kind of hacking away at a piece of timber at Steve's orchard, and a spoon emerged from the tree, and I hadn't really thought to record it, but here it is anyway. It's made from apple wood, and I'm really pleased with the way it came out. So I injured myself in relation to this. Now, you may recall me in the past talking about knife safety and about how I had all the special skills to make sure that I didn't cut myself, you know, with the cutting towards yourself and the controlled cuts and so on. So what happened? Was I a little bit too cocky? Well, yes and no. I didn't cut myself while I was making the spoon. I cut myself when I was putting the tool away. And I guess in my mind, the job had finished. The whole safety precautions, let's make sure you cut towards, the work or cut away from yourself and so on, had finished. I put the workpiece down. I went to put the knife away. Wasn't really paying proper attention. Sliced my finger right open. It'll be fine in a couple of days. Doesn't need stitches or anything like that. We've just got some strips on there and it'll be fine. So there you go. Important lesson about health and safety, and lifelong learning is a great thing, isn't it? But today's lesson, I suppose, is that safety doesn't finish when the job does. So we're just out for a little walk in the woods, and we've stumbled across this. Leave it, Eva, don't knock it over, please. Specimen. This is a parasol mushroom. And there's a fully mature specimen there, and several more in what they call the drumstick phase right there. Oh, and there's another one. There's a perfect drumstick over there. Look at that. So there we go, parasol mushroom. Now, a lot of species of parasol mushroom, and probably this one, are edible, although I'm not very fond of them. So I'm not going to pick this today, even though that would make some fine eating, I'm sure, if you like that sort of thing. But I'm not all that fond of parasol mushrooms personally. So we'll just admire it. It's quite a magnificent mushroom. That stands about nearly 30 centimeters tall there. So quite large in stature, and if you're into that sort of thing, some fine eating there, but we're just going to leave it. So in a couple of videos recently, I visited the little watercourse that runs quite close to where I live, and I referred to it as a river, and quite a few people in the comments said, that's not a river, that's a creek. And well, there's two things to say about that. One is that firstly, it's just not a competition. And secondly, the word creek actually means something very specific in the UK. So this large body of water here, we can see, is the River Hamble. And it just happens to be actually the very same river that we visited when we went to pick chicken of the woods. And it's the river that I called a river that runs down behind the park in the village where I live. So that's the River Hamble. And that is a river. I don't think anybody would argue about that. However, this here is a creek. So what am I talking about? Well, this watercourse here may look like a small stream, or what you've seen me call a river before now. But in fact, this is not a river or a stream. This is a creek. And the difference is that this watercourse here is entirely tidal. So this is a narrow inlet that floods at high tide and then drains at low tide completely. Now it does have a watercourse there. You can see quite an identifiable channel. And in fact, if we look carefully down there, we can see things moving, leaves on the surface of the water flowing. So it does look like it's a stream or a river, or what in other countries you might call a creek. But there is no actual freshwater input here. There is no draining off the land or anything. This is just purely a channel that fills up with the tide and empties again at low tide. So in fact the river here is partly tidal, so this is an estuary. And this part is a creek. In fact, you can see another creek just over there. So I hope that was interesting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.